Garrett Wolforth. I'm currently in the Cincinnati Reds organization, position player, not a pitcher like a lot of you guys were and the guys you deal with. So I'm trying to bring a little bit of a different perspective, player's perspective, not so much as a coach. You've had a lot of great guys speak already today, Randy, Wes. I've known those two guys for a long time, so a lot of the information they bring is coach's perspective, so I'm just trying to bring your perspective from the guys you're dealing with on a daily basis. So title on the screen, basically a fancy way to say our warm-up processes, right? So waking up our body, waking up our arm, a bunch of different things. But before we start, I know exactly what you're thinking, right? You've listened to all these great speakers, and I pop up, and you're thinking, what the hell is this kid doing up there right now? All right, so as the third longest tenured person at the ranch by my two parents, I feel like I'm pretty well versed in the ranch processes, okay? So my first step for all this, before I go into our games, is a we before me mentality. And this goes from all my time as a catcher, all right? You gotta deal with a pitching staff, all the things that come with it, as well as hitting and all that stuff. So I have 5 basic questions I go into the day asking. First one, is there anything my manager may need from me today, right? So when I get to the field, that's looking to line up. I'm a utility guy now and with the Reds, so when I look at the lineup, it's am I playing first, am I playing outfield, am I catching, that kind of stuff. So the next, is there anything our pitching coach may need from me today? So that's going to be, is there any bullpens I have to catch early, any work, any scouting reports we have to go over? Then is there anything my starting pitcher may need from me today? So that's sitting down with them, discussing how we're going to attack different hitters and the processes for the day, all right? And then is there anything others on the pitching staff may need from me today? So that's going back to the bullpens, they need to catch a flat ground, catch a side, anything those guys need from that kind of purpose, right? And then the last one, based on those 4 questions, I'll move on to what I need to do as a catcher, first baseman, outfielder, okay? So taking care of my business is the next step. So hyper-personalization, and what specifically do I need to do in order to perform or train at my highest level possible. So for me, it starts with getting the body ready. So mobility, flexibility, stability, neuromuscular firing, that kind of stuff, getting the body prepped for anything I'm going to do for the rest of the day. Next, pregame hitting stuff, going in the cages, doing that kind of stuff, getting my swing ready, getting kind of swing thoughts going for the day. The next, pregame catching specific stuff, which for me is a hybrid of the stuff I was fortunate enough to play for Jerry for a summer in the Cape, and being with him was a great opportunity for getting ready for pro ball, about what is expected for scouting reports, what's expected for you to do day in and day out. And then I was also fortunate enough to play for Greg Brown up in the top row up there at Nova Southeastern, who's now the hitting coordinator for the Tampa Bay Rays. So playing for him, both those guys, very good catching guys, got me into a good routine about what I need to do on a daily basis for catching. If I'm not catching that day, pregame fielding stuff. So I'm going to take ground balls or track some balls in the outfield during BP and really hammer down on that. And then the last 2, pregame throwing, which we'll go over that, and then pregame running stuff, which your warm-up, your wake-up warm-up stuff will kind of lead into that. All right, so step 3, we're reverse engineering it. So based upon the information in steps 1 and 2 and the time that's available to me, I build my schedule, all right? And we have a list of wake-up warm-ups from the warming up your body to warming up your arm, and all of that, we're going to rate it on a scale of 0 to 10, right? So for me, there's going to be some warm-ups that are a 10, some warm-ups I absolutely hate that are a 0. So I'll do those as little as possible, and the warm-ups that I like, I'll do them as often as I need to, right? But if I have a lot of time, I can pick and choose. Let's say you're going to the field one day, bus breaks down, don't have as much time, right? So you're going to have to pick your shorter warm-ups that day that still get you warm enough to be effective as a player that day. Before we get into it, though, it's not a one-size-fits-all, okay? So we know from this picture, this jacket ends up ripping, right? So if we, on a daily basis, if we try to tell players what's best for them, right, it's not going to work out as well as it could be if we let them pick and choose. Now, obviously, there's a guide to it. Some guys don't really know what they need to do, so they'll pick and choose the wrong things, but the coach is there, in my opinion, as a guide. Like, you guys set the street lines, in essence, right? So the player will be driving down the street, and you guys make sure we stay inside the lines. Another way to look at it, using my friend Wes Johnson here, okay? When Wes was a player, writing the same plan for Wes and Michael Pineda would be an absolute disaster, okay? Wes is about, no offense, about 5'5", Pineda, a decent-sized guy, okay? So Wes and Pineda should not be on the same plan, all right? So with that said, step 4 is pre-preparation. So I'll go into my daily mobility, flexibility, and correctives enhancers. So this is static stretching. If you work with Randy, it's the corrective exercises. Or at the ranch, we have Jonathan Massey. Do a breakdown, and then they'll give you your correctives. Or also Rotex motion, which is a new thing we kind of get into, which is active mobility in essence. But it's as you're stretching, it's like rotation and stretching into one, so it serves as a dual purpose. Next, we're going to get into getting the body hot. Okay, so these are our lists of warm-ups that we have at the ranch. Okay, I have videos on some of them, some videos not on the other ones, but we'll go through all of them. First, we have rugbies. Right, it's just going to serve as getting the whole body hot. It starts with at your feet and your ankles, goes all the way up, slowly gets more and more advanced. Okay, so we'll go through it. We'll start with just like simply loosening up your ankles, walking on your toes, walking on your heels, outside of your feet, inside of your feet. Just trying to loosen up the ankles. Then we'll add some skips. We'll add like these ones. It starts with low knees, so skip with low knees, right? Then slowly building it up more and more, and then we'll get into some actual like lunges and more mobility focused stuff. Different option, hurdles and ladders. Okay, you guys have seen these. These have been around for a while. These aren't anything new, but it's just getting the body working in sequence, firing really quickly, right? Turning the body on, getting it ready. You can go on YouTube, there's 50,000 different exercises of hurdles and ladders, right? So those are just two of the examples that we have. Next one, angle plyos, okay? There's a bunch of different options that you can do on here, but the whole thing is just organizing the body to get it moving quickly, efficiently, turning it on so you can use it whenever you go do your pre-throwing routine or whenever you go do anything the rest of the day. Next one, valve slides. This is another one where it's a dynamic mobility, right? So we're moving through ranges of motion, trying to get to the end ranges of motion, but also it takes some strength to get back from whenever you're on the valve slide, the back end of the lunge, pulling it back up. It takes a little bit of strength to do that. So it's doing a little bit of everything. We've got some mobility, got some strength, movement in there too. So we're trying to hit as many as we can. Next one, Verstegens. Just an active mobility phase as well. Stretching, moving while we're stretching, not just the simple static stretching that we see a lot before games where guys line up in a circle and they got right arm across, left arm across, right? Before we go into a game, before we do our active prep, we want to make sure that we're moving while we're stretching, getting that good dynamic flush in. Static is great for certain times, right? Like we know static after activity, making sure that we're getting back to like our baseline of stretching is a great idea. But before we go out and we do a dynamic movement such as baseball, whether it's swinging or pitching, those are some of the most explosive movements you can make on the earth. So it's important to make sure that we're moving through our flexibility and getting good ranges of motion in. Next one, slam balls. Okay, Mr. Oates has these in the back along with all this stuff, but these are really good for making sure your body's moving and also getting the rotation and the different planes that Randy knows more than I about, but Randy's really big on making sure that we're getting planes in as many movements in as many different planes as possible. Because baseball is not just rotational plane or sagittal plane, it's all of them mixed into one, and you got to make sure that you're getting all of them warmed up as you go into the game.